is defamation? Hello and welcome to Explain Like I'm 10, where we ask some small questions which have some big answers. This is not the usual episode of Explain Like I'm 10 because we have basically no guest. There is no expert here except me. I am the expert today, and I am going to wear that proudly for the amount of work I have done on this over the years. So, hello, guys, I'm expert. Joining me today is Abbas, and
Hello, hello.
Abbas, as you know, is the host of Page 10. He was missing on this episode of Page 10, where very exciting events have happened. So I have dragged him in to talk about it anyway. And we have Shaad Shafi. Hello, Shaad.
Hello, hello. Nice to have two Muslims talking about defamation as
I
guests.
know. I know. Shad is here basically not as a union leader of spectators, but as essentially a person who asks questions about it. Because we already told him the topic, unlike
Oh,
usually
okay.
when we don't. Because I thought that in this episode, I think we should have take some preparation, either say like what you came up with, what you came up with. And I obviously have like extensive notes written on many things. So the reason why we are doing this episode, should we set the context a little bit,
Sure.
uh, is because Rahul Gandhi has been disqualified from the Lok Sabha, and of course the disqualification is one story by itself. But the basic reason why he was disqualified was because he was convicted in a 2019 defamation case, where he was giving a speech in 2018 during an election rally, and he said essentially that सब चोर लोगों का लास्ट नेम मोदी क्यों होता है. And then he named Nirav Modi, he named Lalit Modi, and then he named Narendra Modi also.
Hmm.
So, and he said that. So then there is this random dude, BJP dude in Gujarat called Parnesh Modi. He felt offended because वो थोड़ी चोर है, because all Modis are not chore. So he filed a case against Rahul Gandhi,
Hashtag
defamation case
not all
कि तूने
Modis.
मुझे, yes, not all Modis. And so he filed a defamation case against Rahul Gandhi, and therefore now the court has convicted him for 2 years imprisonment. Now, under the Representation of People's Act, any MP who has been convicted for a sentence which is 2 years or more, their Lok Sabha, I mean their Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, etc. Their basically seat will be cancelled. They will be thrown out of the legislative assembly or parliament. So that is what happened to Rahul Gandhi. That is the context. The thing is, we are not going to exactly talk about that case today, because I thought that we should just take this opportunity to talk about defamation in general and how fun it is. And I say that because I have so many stories. So let's start with both of you. What do you understand of defamation? Shad?
Somebody says something about you which is incorrect, and it causes you like a loss of monetary whatever, or
Hmm.
your status. I don't know. That's what I think
Status.
defamation is.
Society status. Yeah.
Yes,
Or reputation.
reputation. Yes,
Reputation.
that's all I
Yes.
know about it.
Yes. Abbas?
I literally just break down the word defame. मतलब वो आपकी fame को unfame कर देता है जो भी है.
Unfame करता
Yeah.
है, yeah.
So whatever, I mean, anything that the person says which takes away the agency you have gained in society through your, as you said, reputation, maligning that reputation and meaning harm to that person, or something that the person says that may cause harm to the
Hmm.
other person or group of people is
And
essentially
Like
in my head.
can
like
the
going from
person who
roadies to Splitsvilla, it's a loss of reputation.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Wow. Okay. Yes. So can the person who the case has been filed against, can he go to the other person and say कि आपसे गलत फेमी हुई है?
I wish all cases would just end like this, but unfortunately, no.
I
But
think
pretty much,
that guy gets two
yeah,
years of imprisonment for making that pun.
yeah, like we were making that fun. So, both of you are वैसे correct. Like, I mean, defamation is essentially like the official definition of defamation essentially is it is the act of communicating false statements about a person, place, or thing that harms its reputation. So person,
Hmm,
place, or thing. Okay.
hmm,
It can be spoken slander or written libel.
hmm.
Now in India, though, defamation can be criminal or it can be civil. That is actually the fun part of the defamation law that we will delve into deeper. But
Okay.
both of you guys use this whole, I mean, reputation, right? किसी का reputation harm हुआ है या फिर किसी का fame डी हो गया है.
Hmm.
So what do you think counts as reputation? Like what does that even mean?
Hmm. Can I go
Instagram
first?
followers? Is that?
Instagram followers,
No,
sure.
That
sorry,
was the
sorry, Abbas,
most
we should go
Gen
first.
Z answer ever. Reputation, number of followers. But so I think the status that the the said person slash thing has gained in society,
Hmm,
uh how so I'm thinking of it the other way. Okay,
hmm.
people don't think you don't have a bad name, which
Yeah,
automatically implies that you have a good name.
good
So
name.
anything that maligns that good name and brings your status in society in question,
Hmm.
uh, for me that is what reputation stands for.
But that can just mean that if, let's say, Shad does a stand up on like a
Hmm,
politician, making
hmm,
fun of them.
hmm.
Technically, on a daily basis, he must be maligning the reputation of someone or the other.
Well,
Sure.
Shad, you are in
Usually
for a
myself,
surprise.
but yeah, I usually malign
Um,
myself only.
okay, so then in that case, I think there is a certain line. Like once you cross that line,
Hmm.
um, now who decides that line? I'm not very sure. Is it the person who feels offended, or is there a statutory like something in the law
There
which
is,
says that
yes.
if you cross this line, then it counts as defamation? So yeah, I mean that way, though we rib friends also each other in fun. कि
Hmm.
अरे तू क्या करेगा तेरे से तो कुछ नहीं होता that's not really taking away the reputation, but I guess on a public stage, influencing other
Hmm.
people to sort of see the other person slash thing in a bad light, that would count
Hmm.
as like maligning
Defamation.
their reputation. Yeah.
Shad, you
I
were saying
think,
something?
yeah, maybe like just to add or buzzing, maybe it also depends on who is saying it. Like if
Hmm.
they're also in a position of power and stuff, and their word holds more
Mm.
value than us saying it, or somebody who's not as reputed as them saying it. So it doesn't matter. Maybe that's what it's supposed. That people are looking at it that way.
Interesting. So the basically you're saying that, let's say you are like person with less Instagram followers and you're maligning someone with more
Yeah,
Instagram followers. So,
yeah.
so then but so that's the thing. Defamation in general is a super elitist law. Okay, like ultra elitist,
Hmm.
because ऐसे नहीं कि तुम्हारे नेबर ने तुम्हारे सोसाइटी में कुछ बोला तो मैं जाके वो नेबर के अगेंस्ट डेफेमेशन लॉ
Correct.
फाइल कर रहा हूँ, right? Because it's always the powerful which sort of seem to use it.
Mhm.
Like the powerful who essentially get criticized in a lot of ways. So journalist के खिलाफ, media houses के खिलाफ defamation फाइल करते हैं, or like one politician who says something about the other politician, so then that also like counts as basically defamation cases filed इधर उधर.
Right.
Nitin Gadkari and Arvind Kejriwal is one big example, where Nitin Gadkari filed a case against Arvind Kejriwal. Arvind Kejriwal apologized.
Hmm.
Then, of course, there is the case where like celebrities, essentially, like celebrities always tend to do this, where some magazine or whatever has written about them in a bad light, so they will basically be like a defamation. um there are many fun cases which we will touch upon, but I just want to go a little deeper into the law first, right? So tell me, just wild guess, do you know when this law was made?
Oh, I actually looked this up.
Oh, okay.
It was 1860, I believe.
Yeah, it was made in 1860. Yeah, that's true.
Was it like when Simon Go Back was happening? They were like, "Hey, that's defamation. He's our
Yes,
person."
it was actually made by our erstwhile colonial masters, the Brits,
Right.
and
Of course.
so it's basically section 499 and 500 of the IPC, right?
Mm,
Now, section 499 says that whoever by words either spoken or intended to be read, or by signs or by visible representations, makes or publishes an imputation concerning any person intending to harm, or knowing or having reason to believe that such imputation will harm the reputation of such a person, is said, except in the case hereinafter expected, to defame the person. Essentially what they're saying is that tum kuch bhi karo, and if the reputation of the person is harmed,
mm,
then you're screwed.
mm,
And
But
you can be, yeah.
doesn't it say intending to harm?
So it
They
says,
just
yeah, so person intending to harm or knowing or having reason to believe, right? So if you read the actual section, which I would recommend all the listeners to also go and look up, section 499 of the IPC, उसमें उन्होंने 1000 illustrations दिए उसके नीचे, हाँ. So there is this one where A and Z, so something like Z has stolen stuff from A or whatever, but Z basically goes out and says ki A has not so he accuses A of wrongfully stealing something, etc. That is the situation there, right? So if Z goes to someone and says, "Oh, A has not stolen anything from me," even that counts as defamation, because he's actually intending to harm that person by bringing that news to light.
mm,
So it's so bizarre. The illustrations there are very fun. Please go and look it up. But that's why it's so tricky, right? Where you have to prove so many things.
mm,
And to answer your earlier question, Abbas, so the one differentiation you can have about harming reputation is
mm,
if you are highlighting something about one public personality slash company slash whatever, but
mm,
it is done in public good,
mm.
then it is not defamation. If
Okay.
what
you
do you? How is
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who
public good
defines
defined?
public good?
Yeah.
So again, that's why it goes to court, no? That's why
Right.
basically the court interprets it whether it's public good or not. Like for
Right.
example, um so there is this other context also to this episode, which is there is this big case happening in the US on the Fox
Mm,
News thing. I think,
right.
Abbas, we covered that in page 10 as well.
Page 10.
So
Correct. Yeah.
Shad, do you know what that case is? So
No.
to tell you in short, there is this company called Dominion Voting Services, whatever. They
Hello.
make voting machines.
Can you hear us?
Shad.
I can hear you.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah,
Can you
I
hear me?
can hear you also now. Sorry about. I don't know what happened.
Okay, beginning again.
Ha.
So there is this company called Dominion Voting Services, something, which basically makes voting machines in the US, right? So when Trump was before when he lost his election, basically
Hmm.
they started this whole campaign against rigged election. Matlab, they wanted to prove that the election is rigged. So one of the companies they accused is Dominion, saying that your machines are faulty, etc. Right? Fox News, which is this big right wing channel, they essentially amplified those views as well. And they got characters from that whole movement who were just spreading conspiracy theories. The thing is, though, so Dominion files a defamation case against Fox News, saying that, oh, you basically knowingly did this. And they did, because then transcripts came out where their top anchors are actually talking about how all of this is bullshit, but then going on air and then also saying the opposite, which is like airing the falsehoods and misrepresentation. So in the US, they have to prove malice. So again, like when you said who decides, the court, right? But in the US, what happens is that you have to prove actual malice. You knew that what you were saying is wrong, but you went out and then said it anyway to destroy the reputation of someone.
Got it.
That is what it basically means. Okay. Okay, so do you guys have you guys read up any cases of defamation, like?
Yeah, so the like since I was looking up the most recent one, which is
Hmm.
the Rahul Gandhi case, that is in a way intrinsically linked to this case, Subramanian Swamy versus Union of India,
Yeah.
which is also another case. And I actually found I think the judgment of that case, there is one particular line which stood out to me, is that the fundamental right to freedom of speech and expression must be balanced against the right to reputation, right?
Hmm.
So this raises so many questions in my head, because I'm like, does that mean that any cartoonist can be accused of defaming a politician? Because that's literally their job. They are making fun
Hmm.
of politicians and social situations every single day. So so what happens in cases like those? Does India have strong enough freedom of expression or freedom of art or whatever kind of
Hmm.
laws which can counter sort of the defamation laws that we have?
So it happened with me personally. Again, I'm an
Okay.
expert and a victim of this law.
Right.
So so in at News Laundry, when I was there, I did a show on explaining Bark, which is the rating agency, right, and how
Right.
they function, right?
Hmm.
So at one particular point, basically I wanted to make a point that Indian TV media is basically like a reality show. They want
Hmm.
ratings.
Hmm.
And to basically reiterate my point, I made a harmless joke that basically जैसे वो नागिन सास बहू होते हैं, वैसे राहुल शिवशंकर is also the Nagin of TV news or whatever, right?
Right.
And we put up a picture of him as a Nagin,
Hmm.
like as a funny, like, offhand comment.
Right.
Now, the Times Now filed a case. Times Group filed a case against News Laundry for this one particular case, but also nuisance. So
Hmm.
nuisance may we had done this parody of roadies called Toadies,
Hmm.
where Abhinandan Sekhri basically made the point that Rahul Shivshankar is like a Karare Chane seller. So the
Oh,
way
right.
he
I remember this. Yeah.
speaks
Yeah,
on news is like karare le, chane karare le.
yeah.
So
Right.
he kept doing that, like the karare le, and then we kept playing his clip. So basically similarities. So
Hmm. Hmm.
uspe bhi basically they filed a defamation case कि
Okay.
you are harming the reputation of our towering news personalities.
Hmm.
Uh, and वहाँ पे they asked for 100 crore,
Okay.
and
Oh,
yeah, and also 2 years in jail for all of them, for all of us basically. So yeah.
but like I have a question. Like, can't the Karare seller be like, "Hey, what do you mean by is this not a good enough job as an anchor?" Can't he
uh,
file a counter defamation against those people?
you mean the chane seller?
Yeah, the
Yeah,
Chana are being like, I am
the
being
Chanas.
shown in bad light by him
Yeah,
being compared to me.
That's
because then
actually
where does
true.
it stop?
But that's what, no, like it goes into like this infinite loop. But okay, so here's the thing, right, about defamation. Convictions are bad, matlab convictions are,
Hmm.
rates are very low anyway, right?
Hmm.
But the point of a defamation case is to basically harass you.
Right.
Um, so they know, for example, Times Group is giant. They have like whatever. Then they send the notice that given like, oh, हमारे 52 radio stations है, हमारा
Hmm. Hmm.
publications इतना सारा है, we are the largest circulating daily Times Now, ये whatever list of things you have. And then they file a case against News Laundry. So
Hmm.
one of the thing is कि उनके जितने brands है उतने News Laundry के employees भी नहीं है.
Hmm.
So they have 11,000 people working for them, and we had
Hmm.
like what, 45. So they knew that if they file such a big case on us, it would basically suck up our resources. So to fight the case, to go to the court. Yeah, Shad
But
has
like,
a question.
yeah, even if it does go to court, how would you prove that there has been loss of reputation or there has been defamation?
That's actually a big factor in defamation law, right? Where reputation technically is not defined. Like, for example, हमसे 100 crore क्यों मांगा?
Right.
Hmm.
Like, I mean, is your reputation worth 100? Can you prove that
Hmm.
तुम्हारा
Correct. It's
100
again.
crore का loss हुआ है, essentially
Hmm.
that's what you
Hmm.
were saying, right?
Hmm.
And that's actually a problem, right? Because फिर तो मैं अनचंड अमाउंट बोल दूंगा कुछ भी, मेरा 1000 करोड़ का रेपुटेशन है, तुमने डैमेज कर दिया, अब 2000 करोड़, that,
But
yeah.
yeah, also like if you're proven innocent in this defamation case, can't you file a counter defamation for them filing this defamation case against you?
मतलब I didn't understand, for example.
Like Times Group has, for
Hmm.
example, filed a
Hmm.
defamation case against you. The
Hmm.
court proves that you're innocent. They're like there was no
Hmm.
defamation that happened, but all of this was in public.
Okay,
So can't you file? Yeah,
counter
ऐसे
suit basically.
हाँ
yeah,
टाइम्स नाउ ने न्यूज लॉन्ड्री का नाम खराब किया.
ha.
Yeah.
हाँ.
Oh, there is a very fun case which actually will sort of answer this question somewhat.
Hmm.
So, have you heard of this MP called Vandana Chauhan? So
No.
she used to be the mayor of Pune, if I'm not wrong, and she is a NCP MP now. A very interesting incident happened with her. So she lives in an apartment on the ground floor, and on the third floor, there's this fellow who lives called Vijay Naudikar. Okay, now Vijay Naudikar owns 6 cats, and his daughters and everything, they have cats, right? And
Right.
basically, again, like these are based on reports. Okay, so apparently, this Naudikar fellow said that Vandana Chauhan hated the cats. She always said that they are a nuisance, they are whatever, right? So what happens one day is that the cats go missing, and then the daughter, Naudikar's daughter, says that she could hear them screaming. So
Mhm.
Naudikar rushes to the ground floor, sees 2 cats maimed and injured,
My
and
God.
Vandana Chauhan dropping a iron rod and running into her house,
Okay.
right? So he basically filed a case against Vandana Chauhan for animal cruelty,
Uh-huh.
right? Uh, what happens after that is that he gets harassed,
Hmm.
because Vandana Chauhan MP, all the
Hmm.
things. So she starts harassing him essentially through the law, and they order that his animals are causing a nuisance, public nuisance, and they should be taken away in 48 hours by the municipal corporation.
Hmm.
Now, what happens is that in 2016, Vandana Chauhan A denies all the charges कि मैंने ऐसे कभी किया नहीं, and files a defamation case against Naudikar,
Hmm.
because this whole case became such a big deal that she was like, my reputation is now harmed, so then I am filing a defamation case against Naudikar. So
Hmm.
essentially, again, the same thing which I said earlier, right, Chad, ki powerful people using it as a weapon. So, like for
Right.
example, what you asked, it Times Now files a defamation case. Now, News Laundry filing a defamation case back also involves expenses.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So that is the
But
basic
you
thing,
guys
right?
have like 100, 200 crore rupees to spare, so I sure you could afford it.
Of course, that's the logic there that we are working with. But do you think it can be quantified, reputation?
That's what I
Hmm.
was thinking. So in this case, who was it? Sudhir Chaudhary, right? Who was
Rahul Shivshankar.
Rahul Shankar. So I was thinking if they have to show that his reputation has been affected, they essentially have to go and say Rahul Shivshankar's there was a drop in his viewership because
Hmm.
they maligned his reputation. But no news channel is going to do that and admit that hamare numbers gir gaye, because that
Hmm.
never happens. So that's what I was thinking. How are you
But also,
gonna
not just
Brands
is there
going
a
up?
drop, but
hmm,
not just is there a drop, but also directly related to the video.
do the video?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that can be a drop because he's doing a shit show. I
Right.
mean, how is that my fault, right?
Correct. Yeah.
I guess like if brands drop out and stuff, like you see that happening a lot, right? Like on
Hmm.
like platforms, they'll say "Ki we don't approve of this ideology
Hmm.
or whatever is happening, for example. And if
Hmm.
that person he didn't wasn't propagating that ideology, then to uska loss hua hi hai, I guess.
But that's the thing. So, like, I know what you're talking about because we actually ran a bunch of these campaigns
Hmm.
earlier, where if you have like communally charged content on your TV, we asked the brands why are they sponsoring them. Like, do you agree with
Right.
what is being shown? And etc. So some success, some of the bands did drop out.
Hmm.
Internally they told us that they will not advertise anymore. So
Hmm.
nobody was willing to come out publicly and say it, right?
Hmm.
But they did, like, and some of them did drop off. Wahan pe, the news channel that we were actually talking about maybe could have told, like, filed a defamation case against us, saying कि यहाँ पे तो हमारा actual harm हुआ है,
हाँ.
where you have taken the sponsors away. But in
Hmm.
that case, maybe our defense would be that this is for public good, because I
Hmm.
mean,
Right. Right.
Yeah.
But then the court proves that it was not communally charged, then the defamation will hold true.
exactly. So, like, if we were doing it with malice here, which is basically just random program pakad liya, and then we are filing a, whether basically doing this and making advertisers drop out, then they can argue that, Are, but we were doing it for public good. So how are you basically saying? So it goes both ways then, right? Which is like, the person who we are filing matlab, running a campaign against can also come out and say कि we are doing this for public good,
Hmm.
but then they have to prove it. That's the thing. You have to prove it in court.
Right. So I have a question.
Yeah.
So I think so far all the examples we've taken are, let's say, individualistic. कि
Hmm.
मेरा इंसान का reputation ऐसा है कि they felt they've been maligned and then they sued for defamation. But I think when we take it in examples of groups, like
Hmm.
for example this Rahul Gandhi case, that the defamation is that the Modi name, the group of people called Modi have been maligned. So I think
Hmm.
in that case, I can see why it holds a little more metal, because the constitution allows everybody to live with dignity, right?
Hmm.
And a group of people being being painted with the same brush holds more merit than, let's say, one person where we will be like iska pride itna hai कि ये कह रहा है कि मेरा
Hmm.
नाम खराब हो गया. But saying
Yeah.
that, oh, this persons belonging to this religion or caste or group have been painted with a similar brush which is harming them, that,
Hmm.
would you agree that holds more quote unquote merit than an individual?
It would also relate to his other case, right? Like, which is the Bhivandi case, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
so what had happened in 2014 was that he had gone to like a rally and said that RSS walon ne Gandhi ko maar diya.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, and then he's like,
Hmm.
like, this is their usual thing. They are
Right.
murderers. They have murdered Gandhi. So वहां पे an RSS worker filed a case against him saying, why are you maligning all RSS workers?
Right. Yeah.
Same thing. यहाँ पे भी
Yes.
basically, why are you maligning all Modis? Why are you
हाँ.
maligning all?
हाँ.
Yeah. So I mean, that's the thing. So it was the intent behind his statement to actually malign all Modis, or was he like
Hmm.
specifically talking about Narendra Modi and Lalit
Hmm.
Modi and Nirav
Hmm.
Modi,
Hmm.
right? So
Is
that
uh,
is, yeah. Go on.
is context also taken into account?
Yeah, yeah, that's what I was coming to. So I think यहाँ पे context matters, because it was an election rally. He was making a point. He can always say that he was making it in jest, right? Um, there is this there's this MP from BJP who
Hmm.
had posted the same thing which Rahul Gandhi said like a few months before. Uh,
Hmm.
like same thing, like, sub Modi chor hai type, bhrashtachari hai, etc. Why don't we replace the last name Modi with bhrashtachar? That's what she had tweeted. Then when she joined BJP, now she is basically saying कि अरे राहुल गांधी ऐसे कैसे बोल सकता है.
Hmm.
So
Hmm. Hmm.
recently उसका भी tweet आया कि if Rahul Gandhi has maligned all Modis, then she has also done that. So will she also be like become a party to that case? Like, should she be a party to that case where she's also maligned everybody? So context matters यहाँ पे. Um, so, like, for
Also,
example,
I mean, the BJP MPs routinely make fun of the surname Nehru. So why
yes.
isn't that some
Yeah.
other Nehru somewhere has filed a
Yeah.
defamation case? You're
Not
insulting all Nehrus.
even like when they were doing the whole Rahul Gandhi Papu thing, didn't they
Huh.
Hmm.
explicitly use his name like that? Though is a targeted war,
Hmm.
which did lead to loss of votes, which he could have gotten
No,
maybe.
there I can see Rahul Gandhi can be like, okay, I'm taking the higher moral ground and I'm just gonna brush it off. In
Hmm.
that case, that one can argue that. but the Nehru Gandhi surname has been repeatedly been used
Bashed.
to
Right.
bash him.
Didn't I think Randeep Surjewala gave a statement on this recently, only saying that by constantly maligning Nehru, you are actually insulting Kashmiri Pandits. I
Hmm.
mean, by the same
Exactly.
logic,
Yeah.
then,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So, like, I mean, then where does this end? Essentially, like,
Exactly.
where
Yeah.
it's like, फिर तो कुछ भी मतलब, like, what other thing that people have been highlighting again, same logic यहाँ पे,
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
उनको तो हम कपड़ों से पहचान लेते हैं,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
rioters को, या
If I may
whatever.
actually
Hmm,
bring a more controversial incident, I
hmm,
remember. I don't remember if it was 2014 or 2019, where in an interview Narendra Modi was asked, do you have any regret of the riots that happened?
hmm,
And in response he said कि गाड़ी के नीचे अगर कुत्ते का बच्चा भी आ जाता है तो बुरा लगता है.
बुरा
And
लगता है.
I don't know if anybody filed a case against it, but there was that whole thing where it was like, okay, he's equating a community with a puppy, and
Hmm,
that some people thought was insulting.
hmm.
So so there are examples like that also, right, where uh,
That's what.
yeah.
And you know, like, the in the game of politics, essentially, I mean, rhetoric wise, political
Hmm,
rhetoric wise, it is
hmm,
always this, right? You, us versus them, कुछ तो भी करना है.
hmm,
Like, I mean, like, we can take the example of the OACs also, right? Who
hmm.
have gone multiple occasions
Yeah,
where
yeah,
they have
yeah, yeah.
gone and like basically targeted communities, etc. We can take
Right.
the example of Hardik Patel also, where he had done these rallies and then he was basically targeting like a group of people, etc., and causing violence also. So I mean,
Hmm,
that's the thing, right? So it's like, if you are in the space of politics somehow, you will try to create like blocks of voters, right? So your job is then to attract a certain block of voters, but by maligning the other block of voters who the
hmm,
other
hmm,
guy is trying to get.
hmm,
So that is a constant thing.
hmm.
So should we just then go into this spiral of defamation cases?
But then have there been any judgments where the court has unanimously come down and said ki, yes, defamation was done in this case and you shall pay for this?
I will tell you after
Okay.
Also,
the
like,
break. Yeah, but yeah, Shad, go on.
yeah,
Yeah,
like I have like a part B to his question. Has
Hmm.
it ever happened that a person with lesser power has won a defamation case?
I will tell you that also. I am
Uh,
going to. I have many things, guys. I have many stories to tell, and that will happen after the break. After the break, I'm going to talk about one of the people I admire the most, Maheshwar Perry, and his battle with Choti Wale Baba. Then I'm going to talk about another thing that we did. This fun campaign we did to basically um, revamp the defamation law and what our thought was behind it. I think both of your questions will be answered there. So now on to the break.
Hey, it's been another great week on the IBM Podcast Network. Listeners, presenting to you Club Cyrus Says, the premium tier offering for our podcast. Club members will get exclusive Cock and Bull episodes every Monday, extended and unfiltered versions of the guest episodes, access to the Club Cyrus Says Discord server, and audio offerings such as ad-free episodes and early access to guest episodes. Also, members get to decide the topics of the live episodes and get their name on the producer's slate at the end credits. On completion of 300 episodes, that's 300 episodes, Simplified team revisits the time when they kickstarted the podcast. They also hosted Amit Verma of the Seen and the Unseen fame, who joined in on this fun conversation. On Storytellers and Storysellers, Vineet talks to Shirley DeCosta and Manoti Jain of Supari Studios. They discuss what it takes to create engaging content that blends content with strategy, creativity, and technology. And on the Payments Ecosystem podcast, Sheila Datya is in conversation with Sagar Agarwal and Aditi Oleman, the Senior Director of Product Management and Director of New Initiatives, respectively. They discuss the growth of the fintech industry and the importance of collaboration in this field. Once again, don't forget to visit our merch store on the IBM Podcast website. We have some exciting stuff for you. Follow us on social media. We are IBM Podcasts on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. If you like our shows, spread the word. Tell all your family and friends. And don't forget to rate and review our shows wherever you're listening to them. You'll also find all our shows on youtube.com/IBM Podcasts. And finally, we would like to thank our sponsors this week: LIC India, Yono SBI, Cash Free Payments, and HDFC Mutual Fund. Thank you for making this possible.
Hello and welcome back to Explain Like I'm 10. The big question we are asking today is what is defamation? And many other questions have arisen before this break happened. If you're watching this on All About Now video page, which is the YouTube page, then please subscribe. We have two other shows on this very feed. One is hosted by Abbas called Page 10, our current affairs podcast, where we take four pieces of news from the last week and we have a healthy discussion about it. And the second show is hosted by me and my cousin comedian friend Shreyas Manohar. We read the seventh grade civics book with people like Omar Abdullah, Richa Chadda, Anup Soni, and we have very fun podcast, guys. Please go watch.
Before we
With,
move on, Meghnad, can I just
uh,
say that as someone who is from Bhiwandi, when I saw the Rahul Gandhi defamation case in Bhiwandi, I was like, wow, I did not know this. Bhiwandi finally gets some representation. And the thing is, I'm just unaware of this, but it's not like Bhiwandi has a very strong RSS presence also. So I don't
oh,
know how. Yeah, it's not as prominent as in some other
hmm,
towns in Maharashtra, or maybe I'm just living in my own bubble. But
hmm.
I was very surprised to know that Rahul Gandhi has a case in Bhiwandi. So
Yeah. I mean, the guy in Bhiwandi got offended, no? Like,
yeah,
like that's the thing. बोला कहीं भी होगा क्या भी होगा भिवंडी में offense हुआ है so
yeah.
yeah the feelings of offense have happened in that one particular
In
case
that
so
town, very
तो
much.
फिर सब RSS yeah
I have a question. Can people join into the defamation case? Like, can a Modi person from
right.
Rajasthan be like, hey, yeah,
Hmm.
me also.
So
I
I'll
also want
answer
to.
that question first quickly, then I'll move on to the other two questions that you asked. One is yes, they can. There is this very fun thing that happened in 2016. Okay, so what is common between Arvind Kejriwal, Subramaniam Swamy, and Rajdeep Sardesai?
They've all had defamation cases against them.
They were all party to the same defamation suit.
Oh,
Okay, so
Oh.
they basically so the thing is that Subramaniam Swamy ke khilaf Jayalalitha had filed a ton of cases, defamation cases, right?
mm,
And I think he had some others also. Arvind Kejriwal ke khilaf there were a bunch of defamation cases. Rajdeep Sardesai journalist उसके भी खिलाफ काफी
mm,
थे. राहुल गांधी के खिलाफ भी वो भिवंडी वाला केस था.
mm,
So basically what happened is that when Rahul Gandhi went to court in his case, the High Court said that he has insulted, so he was kind of convicted for it, right? But then
yeah,
he asked for reprieve and said that I'm going to higher courts, to the
mm,
Supreme Court. Now he basically ended up challenging the defamation law itself.
mm,
He said that the defamation law, the criminality of the defamation law, is unconstitutional. And there was a suit that these guys had filed, which is Kejriwal, Subramanian Swamy, Rajdeep Sardesai, which was also on similar lines, which is basically that this criminal defamation law goes against the ethos of our constitution. Now, in 2016, the Supreme Court actually upheld the criminal defamation law,
okay,
where the sentence that you had read earlier, which is
yeah,
Abbas. So they had said that the criminal defamation law was neither vague nor excessive nor arbitrary, and did
yeah,
not consider criminal defamation as disproportionate. And they
correct.
said protection of reputation is a fundamental right. It is
Mm,
also a human right. Cumulatively, it serves the social interest, right? So essentially, they threw these guys out of court
mm, mm.
in that case. Also in the same year, another very exciting thing happened. J. Jayalalitha ke khilaf, like all the cases she had filed, the Supreme Court was hearing that batch of petitions also, and there they said that Jayalalitha was using defamation to throttle democracy, and
Okay.
they came down heavily on her. So they did
Ah,
both things at the same time.
contradiction. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's bizarre, and I understand where like the frustration also comes from sometimes, because a defamation law is vague, excessive, and arbitrary. I would say that, because I will give you an example of it as well. But yeah, you had some more questions before I move on to the story.
I had a very basic question, which I feel I
Go
should have
on.
asked before the break only. What is the difference between a civil defamation and a criminal
Yeah.
defamation?
Yes. So here's the difference. Criminal defamation may you will be sent to jail. Civil defamation may they can get monetary compensation from you,
So
not jail.
the judgment is different, but like the way you file the case is the same. Like
So
the
the thing
grounds
is
it's
that,
being filed on.
so it's so bizarre. The defamation law is so bizarre that when you send a notice to someone, you can either choose criminal defamation or
Sure.
civil defamation, or both, right?
Oh, nice. That
Yeah,
is
so
good.
like the Times Now thing is both, कि तुम मुझको पैसा भी दो बट तुम जेल में भी जाओगे.
Hmm.
So it
Hmm.
can be both. Sometimes the defamation case is just compensation,
Got it.
and also apology. Public apology is also one part of it. So civil defamation में it can be like compromise कर लेते हैं, या फिर तुम compensation दो, या फिर sorry बोलो. बट क्रिमिनल डेफेमेशन केस में या तो तू सॉरी बोल, नहीं तो तू जेल जाएगा.
Hmm.
Which is basically what happened with Rahul Gandhi abhi, which is the court said sorry bol, and he's like no, and like फिर तू जेल जाएगा. uh, that's what happened, right? Okay. So should I go to the story?
Yeah.
Okay. Have you guys heard of Maheshwar Perry?
No.
No, he
No.
was that guy from Friends, no?
Could it be any more obvious?
Have you heard of Arindam Chaudhary?
Yes.
In what context?
The guy who fleeced half the nation by selling them MBAs.
Yes.
Oh
Shad,
yeah,
what do you remember about him?
I
Ponytail,
remember his
ponytail guy.
ponytail, yeah, and his
Ponytail, yeah.
glasses. What was his?
Discover
He
the
was
diamond in you.
Yeah.
Yeah, discovered his institutions were called IIPM.
IIPMs, yes, man. They would
Yes.
advertise a lot on like news channels, no?
Yeah, and
And
papers and everywhere.
their
Ah,
ads were legendary. Like everybody's having fun. It's a
yeah.
cool institution. Please come join us.
So actually, you have already set the context for this, because I am going to talk about the guy who took him down.
Okay.
Uh, Maheshwar Perry is this lone warrior who basically just fought and fought and fought and destroyed him, right? And I love it. The story is amazing. Okay. So it's 2003, okay? And Outlook magazine basically has ranked IIPM in the fourth place in terms of industry interface, right? What IIPM was claiming was that they have done 100% placement uh,
Hmm.
in 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 like basically the data that they
Hmm.
gave to Outlook, right? Now Perry was a part of Outlook, and he one of the parents of one of these kids visited him and said that her son has not been placed and remained unemployed despite having paid them a lot of money for the placement.
Hmm.
So he was like, what is going on? So he dug a little deeper, and he found out that it's all a sham,
Hmm.
right? So he decided to drop them in the rankings, basically the whole
Right.
list.
Huh.
And he came out with a notice in 2005 saying that Outlook will no longer rank IIPM because we don't trust what they say.
Hmm.
Now, in June 2008, um, what basically Outlook reported was that students were placed in this place called Planman, which is a sister concern of IIPM,
Hmm.
at higher salaries, which is meant to jack up placement ratios, and then they are sacked within 2 months.
Hmm.
So they exposed this, and then they did like a article on it. So IIPM got pissed, uh, and then they started filing cases after cases on Outlook and Maheshwar Perry. Right. In 2008, um, basically they said that articles with so Outlook reported that articles with misleading facts are being planted in the media, and they are basically not questioning it because IIPM is advertising so much with them. So the
Okay.
whole thing about giving ads, right? So
Right.
IIPM used to advertise like tons of places,
Hmm.
but he also gave a lot of ads, front page ads to newspapers.
Hmm.
So whenever they said something to the media, they did not question them, and they just
Hmm.
Got
chapofied
it.
whatever.
Right. क्योंकि उससे
Uh,
पैसा मिल रहा है ad का.
पैसा मिल
That
रहा है. So
that's
Right.
how it
yeah.
reached number 4 in the rankings also.
Yeah, exactly. Also, there was this whole thing about paid scam कि वो पैसा देते थे रैंकिंग वालों को एंड
Hmm.
आउटलुक भी कर रहा था तो वो बहुत कॉम्प्लिकेटेड हो गया था बट या दैट इज
Hmm.
आल्सो वन मोर थिंग
Hmm.
हाँ so business school so what they said and they said this line business school rankings and awards are up for sale the price is paid through advertisements is what the report was. So they went all out basically, and then basically cases file करना शुरू कर दिया. Maheshwar Perry leaves Outlook and starts his own portal called Career 360, where he goes nuts. He does like an entire series on IIPM and how it's a fraud and what shady things they do and fascinating bunch of things. Lots of investigative journalism he does, right?
Hmm.
Now that is where it gets bad for him because IIPM filed 14 cases against him, defamation cases,
Right.
not in one court,
Right.
14 courts
हाँ.
across the country.
हाँ.
Dude, how is that even allowed?
Exactly. So when I said it's arbitrary, vague, and whatever, I mean it because this case
Hmm.
proves it. Okay. So a case was filed in Uttarakhand where his wife was included, and they had basically criminal defamation case. They had to get a bail from there. Then there was a case in Kamrup, Assam, in this small place in Assam somewhere, for 100 crore rupees civil defamation, right? Then there was in Gurgaon where him and one of his friends, Rajesh Jain, was dragged in and basically criminal case kar diya us pe. And there were like a bunch of slew of other cases where he was asked to be present every time a hearing happened. So
Hmm.
what Arindam Chaudhary and IIPM were trying to do was they were trying to bankrupt him
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
they knew that Career 360 is like this new organization which is looking for funding, which is going out and trying to make it big and whatever. So advertisers start pulling out from our 360. He's not able to raise funds. He had to give indemnity clauses to his investors saying ki, if I get basically screwed in this case, nothing will come on you. I will personally
Hmm.
bear responsibility and
Hmm.
basically give
Hmm.
money. Um, so all that shit happened, right? Now, this guy gets tired after 6 years of running around in courts. In 2015, he goes to the Supreme Court and says that, listen, I can't do this anymore. Please club these cases together and I'm going to fight them all together at once. Right? So he doesn't back down. He's like, I am going to take every case through to its logical conclusion because I know that what I'm saying is correct
Hmm.
and I know that IIPM is fraud, right? Now, what the effect of this is that IIPM ki phat gayi, like literally, because now what is happening is in the Supreme Court, the case got a lot of national attention, and other people started questioning him and his business
Hmm.
and everything,
Right.
and other parents also started coming out saying, actually, what he's saying is true. We
Right.
also got fleeced by this guy. So FIRs were filed against Arindam Chaudhary for cheating and fraud and whatever. So what happened is on the day of the hearing, there was this dramatic thing where Maheshwar Perry is there, uh, IIPM ka Arindam is supposed to show up,
Hmm.
etc. On the day of the hearing, they withdraw all cases in toto.
Whoa.
Oh.
And a few days later, IIPM puts out a press release that they're shutting down all their campuses. So IIPM got wrecked due to
This is like a
defamation
climax
cases
of
that they
it's like
had
a
filed.
climax of a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, I thought Arindam Chaudhary would just wear all of Maheshwar Perry's clothes. That's another.
But I was wondering where this guy is now, Arindam
हाँ.
Chaudhary. Haven't
I
heard
don't
about
know.
it.
I mean, last I prominently remember seeing him was he went up on stage during the India Against Corruption movement, and he's like,
Really?
कि
Oh,
हाँ
yeah.
कि कॉर्पोरेट बैकग्राउंड से यहाँ कोई नहीं है, मैं अकेला आदमी हूँ जो यहाँ आके अन्ना जी के साथ खड़ा हुआ है. Like, okay.
यहाँ
That
पे
was in
जो भी प्रोटेस्टर है
2011.
सबको 100% प्लेसमेंट.
Yeah. This was his peak confidence time, no? Because वो
Yeah,
ये
yeah,
केसेस
yeah,
अब तभी फाइल कर रहा था
yeah.
कि
हाँ.
अरे इसको तो मैं बेरी कर देगा, इसको तो मैं पेरी को बेरी कर देगा, whatever. And, so he did that. Like there was like this whole string of also the ads that he used to put out. Those were
हाँ.
nuts, which you
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
mentioned, right?
yeah.
And his face was everywhere. Choti wale baba.
Everywhere. Yeah,
Yeah.
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 So
But
here's the thing, right? Nobody talks about it now, obviously, because it's gone into that gray area. But Shah Rukh Khan was their brand ambassador at one point,
oh
and
yeah.
yeah, he
Really?
used to go to these huge conferences that Arindam Chaudhary used to give, and he used to be their keynote speaker in all of them.
That's true. That's
Yeah,
very true. Oh, I just remembered. Yeah, you're right.
yeah.
So
And I
Pathan.
think Arindam Chaudhary wrote a book called Discover the Diamond in News, and the forward was written by Shah Rukh Khan.
Fuck. Oh wow. Yeah. That now I just remembered that that was also a thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Acha,
But
so
I have a
yeah.
question,
Go on.
Meghnad. So
Hmm.
during all this time, Outlook never sort of supported Maheshwar Perry or in any way
No,
sort
no,
of.
they did. They did.
Okay,
So, like, Maheshwar Perry in a Facebook post wrote that the Outlook ka editor was always supporting him. Even after
okay,
he had left, he had
right, right.
offered to basically bear his costs, etc.
Okay.
I mean, the management changed later, and there was some shittiness also वहाँ पे भी हुआ था, where
Hmm.
IIPM tried to do a compromise with Outlook
Okay.
and basically settle the case, etc. And they tried to do that with Maheshwar Perry also, but Maheshwar Perry said no. जैसे कि मैं जाऊंगा कोर्ट, तूने अब फाइल किया तो अब चल कोर्ट तू, देखते हैं क्या होता है. So he went on with it. Outlook में क्या हुआ exactly, it's not clear.
Okay.
What
But
happened in the
he
end?
said that he had support from these people also.
Hmm.
What was the court's judgment then?
So the court नहीं हुआ ना, because like he
They
withdrew all the
withdrew the
cases.
cases.
Oh,
Yeah,
So
on the day of the hearing.
हाँ, IIPM essentially on the day of hearing was like, नहीं नहीं हम defame नहीं हुए. We'll take it all back.
We'll take it all back.
then isn't there
After
like a penalty for like wasting court's time and
there is.
everybody
So
else's time and everything?
the court can actually penalize you for what is it called? Misuse of judicial or something. There is a term for this, like a legal term for this, where the court can say कि तुमने हमारा time waste किया है यहाँ पे, तो तुमको fine देना पड़ेगा. That has happened a bunch of times also, by the way. So if you like, Supreme Court does this every other time. ये इतने सारे जो PIL फाइल करते हैं ना, like कुछ random PIL आ गया, so they basically penalize someone कि what is this nonsense? You have wasted our time. I've penalized the person, the petitioner. होता है वो.
So
Yeah,
if we can
Abbas.
extend this a little more, so let's say had IIPM not withdrawn all the cases, or let's say did they withdraw because they saw it coming that the court would rule ke Pellissery Maheshwar was merely doing his job, what was required of him.
So this is where we go back to our first conversation we had, right? So what Maheshwar Perry had on his side was the facts, like truth, where he had like a bunch of people saying that they've been fleeced. Like he had reported on them. He had like their like the people who came to him also. Then the second is public good. So because he was doing stories to benefit these people who are suffering, he can
Correct.
prove that it's public good, right?
Okay.
And at the same time, IIPM had nothing. IIPM could not basically, like, if they went for this case, they would be screwed. So that is maybe what the calculation they did was ki, if we prolong this case now, we will be screwed. So please, because there was this talk also, I don't know, this is not a fact. This is from some sources who know Maheshwar Perry, and that he was basically going to file a countersuit against IIPM for basically ruining his life.
Yeah, that's
And
what I was going to
was
ask.
going to
What
ask for compensation from them. So maybe during that case, that would have gone to that level where IIPM would have to pay him.
Hmm.
So maybe they already saw that coming and that's why they withdrew.
Got it.
That might be the case as well.
Hmm.
Okay, so last part of this whole episode. Um, if you, now that you know all these things, if you had to reform the defamation law, can you think of any ideas? What do you think is arbitrary? What do you think can be changed?
I would do away with it completely.
Same.
So
Yeah, that's
do
my
away
take.
with it completely.
Yeah.
But then
Also,
that's, yeah, go on.
I feel in this day and age, nobody really cares about uh, a person's reputation as much as they did in the 1800s. I would feel, because so many people who are, they're in the wrong, but people continue to work with them because that's how they're gaining out of it. So now it's just hurting the people, like you said, of lesser power, and people with more power just abusing it. So
Hmm.
might as well just get away with it.
But the thing is, there can be legitimate cases. Like, for example, the US case that I'm speaking about,
Right.
like the Dominion
Hmm.
company versus
Fox.
Fox
Right.
News.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
would say that that is legit. I mean, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
your business has genuinely been affected by this falsehood that this giant network is spreading about you
Hmm.
knowingly.
Hmm.
Um, so, in that case, getting rid of the law does not work, in my
Got
opinion.
it. Yeah. Correct.
Because
But
the funny thing
it
is,
uh,
go on, Shad,
no,
go
no,
on.
I was just gonna say, then it kind of like then goes back to like freedom of speech also, right? Like
Yeah, yeah,
like how we discussed on that episode also, like should it be absolute or not? Then
yeah.
this is
Mhm.
just one way it shouldn't be. But sorry, you were saying.
So in the free speech episode also, like, if you remember, reasonable restrictions. So Article
Correct.
19 has reasonable restrictions, and defamation is a part of it. So when the Supreme Court judgment happened in 2016, which is the landmark judgment, Subramaniam Swamy wala,
Hmm.
that is where they also said that we don't have absolute free speech. Defamation is a part of the reasonable restrictions. So that has to be obeyed. But what is defamation is a big question, right?
Yeah.
And what does it entail? And is this law arbitrary? The section 499 and 500. Um,
Yeah, I mean the again going back to that judgment, the Subramanian Swamy, fundamental right of to freedom of speech and expression must be balanced against the right to reputation. I'm like, if you have
yeah.
to balance your freedom, then it's not exactly complete freedom, is it?
Yeah.
So
Balance it against what?
my last story here is this little adventure that we did in Parliament, right? Where
Mhm.
so I used to work with an MP called Tathagat Satpathy. Tathagat Satpathy was a maverick, I would say. Like, he was willing to experiment and do random things in Parliament and whatever. So he essentially had the most number of criminal cases against him in
Okay,
India, because he was also the editor of a newspaper.
of course.
So
Yeah.
Dharitri, the biggest Odia daily in Orissa, so he was the editor. So whenever a defamation case is filed, his name was included in it. So then he had more cases against him than Pappu Yadav, like,
Mm.
who actually allegedly committed actual
Yeah,
murders.
yeah.
So every time a list came out, ki criminal cases ka list, Tathagat Satpathy number one. So if they made a map, there was this giant blob which was on Orissa, which was Tathagat Satpathy. Right? He was very tired of that, and he was like, "What is this nonsense?"
Mhm.
Then this case also happened, 2016 May, and we were all outraged by this whole thing. You're just, what is this nonsense? Like, what is happening? So we were like, what we can do is we can try to change the law. So if the court is not doing anything, maybe the legislation can. So we had this wild plan to file a private members bill. Now, do you guys know what a private members bill is? Okay,
No.
so in short, the government brings in bills, makes laws, right, in Parliament, and then that's the government bill, right? But
Mhm.
then individual MPs can also write bills and bring them and submit them in Parliament. Um, so in that case, it never gets passed. The last bill was passed in 1974, And uh, the recent one was the transgender bill, which was passed in one house but not completely passed. So private members bill is basically a useless exercise, वैसे. But what we thought was कि why don't we just try to see if we can do something about it. So what we did was we tried to treat our bill, which we wrote, called the Protection of Speech and Reputation Bill, um, and we called it the speech bill. We wrote a bill. We did not scrap the entire law, right? So what we were talking about earlier, right? Ki if we scrap the entire law, what do we do with the legitimate cases? So what we tried to do was three things. One is we were like criminal defamation hatao, right? But at the same time, civil defamation ko make it stronger, like make it even more stronger, make it more actionable. So abhi kaise, like the Times Now case or whatever, 100 crore, right? Why 100 crore? Like क्या logic है इसके पीछे? So whenever you file a case, what our law says is that criminal defamation is repealed, and we want to protect freedom of speech, but by strengthening civil defamation laws, and also balance free speech with reputation, which is what the Supreme Court said, right? So the way we were going to do it is essentially a show us quantifiable damage, कि तुम्हारा अगर रेपुटेशन हार्म हुआ है तो ए प्रूव दैट यू हैव अ रेपुटेशन, उसका कितना वर्थ है, एंड हाउ मच क्वांटिफाइबल डैमेज हैज बीन कॉज्ड टू दैट रेपुटेशन, राइट? Please
But
interrupt me wherever you want. Yeah.
is like, for example, in your case only, like
Hmm.
playing devil's advocate,
Hmm.
if like if a brand did pull out from advertisements, and but they didn't give this exact reason, but
Hmm.
they said off the record this is the reason, then how do you prove it? Like there
You
can be a
can't, no?
number of effects, but
Hmm.
it did hurt his reputation, for example, let's say.
Of course, of course. So, like, if for example, मेरा personal example ही ले लेते हैं, like, you know, like, say, let's say I do this video, which has caused reputational harm to towering news personalities. Now, the thing is that when they sort of file a case against me, what they should be able to prove is कि मेरा net worth इतना है, मेरे शो से इतना पैसा आता है, इसके वीडियो में इतने व्यूज आए हैं. नाउ यू कनेक्ट दोज थ्री थिंग्स एंड एक्चुअली प्रूव कि इतना हार्म हुआ है मुझे उसकी वजह से. I mean, you have to prove it in court somehow, right? Like, for example, the Fox News thing, there is actually now provable evidence, right? कि तुमने falsehood किया, knowingly किया, and it has caused this much harm to us, right? So therefore, like advertisers pulling out or brands taking that, yeah, even in case of Career 360, right, when investors were not paying him, for example, like investing in him, because this whole case was going on. So technically he had grounds to say that because of you मेरे ये इन्वेस्टर ने पैसा नहीं डाला, so now you give me that money.
Got it.
Right? So provable damage essentially. So that was the basic crux of our bill, right? So we treated it like a government bill. What we did was we drafted it and we made it, the principles we made public, and we asked for public consultation. So we sent it to a bunch of lawyers, we sent it to Maishwar Perry, we sent it to like a bunch of people who have been in defamation cases, etc. We went to the Sir Subramaniam Swamy, sat in his living room, had a chat with him about defamation. We did a lot of internal lobbying, I would call it, but I can't use that word. Advocacy. uh, and tried to see if we can get this anywhere. So basically, all of these people suggested changes to the bill. We kept it for 6 months. 6 months के लिए we kept it open कि तुम suggest करो, we will make changes, etc. Then we filed it, and now it exists in Lok Sabha. So I will leave a link in the description of a bill I am very proud to have contributed to, which is reforming defamation law. Please go and read it. If not, just one tip: don't read the entire thing because it's all legal language. Go to the last page. and read the statement of objects and reasons, which I wrote. Please, yeah, please read that. And so, big shout out to Apar and Nikhil and other people who also were a part of this campaign. So we were Team Speech Bill. So the idea was that our office was a part of a team which was running this advocacy campaign. So we all take credit for it essentially. And basically, Tathagat was like, "Listen, we all worked on this, so please take credit." And so therefore, I can. And Apar Gupta, Nikhil Pawa, a bunch of other people who were also lawyers who helped draft the legal language, everything. Wonderful people. Um,
Mm.
Another fun fact, during this time, right before that, uh, British people, they basically made a law which decriminalized defamation.
Ah.
Oh.
Mm.
So we were using that as a base for our law as well. It's like अगर हमारे माँ बाप जिन्होंने ये law बनाया है,
Exactly. And they've done this
वही
with
repeat
multiple
कर,
laws, where they
Yeah.
take it down in their country, but we are still following it.
we are still following it. Um, just to give like some trivia, in 1996, Britain is the one that decriminalized defamation. They made a law in 2013.
Got it.
यूक्रेन में 2001 में डिक्रिमिनलाइज हुआ, श्रीलंका 2002, आयरलैंड 2009, नॉर्वे 2015, जिम्बाब्वे 2016, केन्या 2017, मालदीव्स 2018. So
Wow.
yeah,
A couple of these were like dictatorships, and even they were like, "नहीं यार,
yeah.
ये बहुत पुराना है."
So at least, so last report that I read by UNESCO, it said that at least 160 countries around the world still have criminal defamation laws.
Hmm.
We do as well.
Right.
So but things are changing and people are rapidly sort of
Hmm.
decriminalizing defamation. So
Right.
yeah,
Can
that's
I
my
can
story.
I lastly just ask? So, in the Rahul Gandhi case specifically, he's been suspended and his seat is now vacant.
Hmm.
So that is because you cannot hold an office of power while a case is on you. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah.
So obviously, clearly, this has also been done with intent to harass and basically get him out of the way temporarily, at least.
So with that, okay, so the law
Hmm.
there says, the Representation of People Act section 8 3, I think,
Hmm. Hmm.
sub clause 3, it says that if you are a sitting member of parliament and you have been convicted with a sentence for 2 years or more,
Hmm.
then you immediately lose your seat, right?
Okay. Hmm.
um and what will happen now is that Rahul Gandhi will have to complete his sentence of 2 years, and then for 6 years after that also he can't contest elections. So 8
Acha.
years ke liye Rahul
Oh.
Gandhi can't contest any elections now, which means this general election and next general election he cannot contest.
But can that be overturned?
So there is this abhi ek case hua hai, which is
Hmm.
Lakshadweep ka MP. He lost his seat
Hmm.
because of a conviction as well. And abhi court ne ruling diya hai, I think Kerala High Court has ruled that the conviction will be stayed, so then now his seat will be reinstated.
Okay.
It's only convictions. It's not like if they have cases ongoing.
No, not accused,
ऐसे तो कोई
convicted.
खाली रहेगा फिर पार्लियामेंट
Yeah.
4 लोग रहेंगे.
Convicted. So
Yeah.
but that's the thing na, even in defamation laws, the criminal defamation law, usme maximum punishment is 2 years.
2 years. Yeah.
Right.
So the court awarded him the maximum punishment, and therefore this disqualification happened, because the other law says 2 years or more.
Or more. Yeah. Correct.
Right.
So that's what happened there.
Hmm.
Another funny random side trivia, uh, in 2013, when there was this case in Supreme Court which was basically about this case, right? Supreme Court basically overturned this, Supreme Court basically upheld this clause saying that
Hmm.
criminal conviction ho gaya to fir you are kicked out of parliament.
Hmm.
Manmohan Singh government issued a law as an ordinance overturning that and said that no, appeal ke liye 6 mahina diya jayega, and then they will lose their seats, right?
Okay.
That's the law that Manmohan Singh government introduced as an ordinance.
Hmm.
Rahul Gandhi goes to a press conference
Oh,
and
tears it up.
says, he didn't actually tear it up, by the way.
Right, right, right.
That's misinformation. But what he did was he said ki, this ordinance is worth tearing up. And I
Okay.
completely disagree with it. So Manmohan Singh government quietly like withdraws the ordinance, and
Yeah.
now in
Ah,
2023,
yeah, karma. Oh man.
like the irony of that situation, man. My God.
Uh,
But okay, final thoughts, guys.
I still think it should be done away with.
Oh, you still think it should be done away with?
I think
Oh,
it should. I think it should go away until I become a powerful enough person that I can file defamation cases against people.
I think that is the ultimate goal that we should all have, that we become
Yeah.
powerful enough to actually use defamation law.
Yes.
But thank you so much, guys. Thank you for listening. And thank you for participating in this very fun episode of defamation laws. This is one of my favorite subjects. I can talk about this endlessly. I have so many stories other than this also. Oh, one last thing. Okay.
Yes.
Um, tell me the number of cases J. Lalita filed
Mhm.
in 5 years. Defamation cases. Just imagine.
300.
Uh,
थोड़ा ज्यादा बोल दिया.
Oh, okay. Oh
No,
man.
it's close. It's close.
Four. She filed 4 cases.
no, अभी बहुत कम बोल दिया.
213.
213.
213. That's basically a rate of 3.5 defamation cases per month for five
Wow.
years. Yeah. And she used to file it like against her opponent. She would file like 7 defamation cases at once.
Mm,
Then
mhm.
Subramanian Swamy ke khilaf 5. And basically, she was using this weapon very efficiently.
Yeah.
So please be like Jayalalitha, guys, because reform तो हो नहीं रहा है. तो हम क्या करेंगे? But yeah, thank you so much for listening, guys. Thank you, Abbas. Thank you, Shad, for
Yeah.
being a part of this episode. And also, we will leave a link below to the speech bill. Please look at. Please do read it if you are interested in nerding out about it. And I will see you next time. Thank you so much.